Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, and Kari Lake just made a huge announcement. You are not going to want to miss this. The grassroots energy that's behind Kari Lake is incredible, and it continues to grow as we speak. And that energy is not only fueling Kari's ongoing court challenge to the Maricopa County shenanigans, it looks like it's ready to propel her to the United States Senate if the courts don't come through. Kari Lake was on Charlie Kirk's show when she finally addressed the question about a run for the U.S. Senate.
Some people are clamoring for you to run for the U.S. Senate. I had a lot of people reach out this weekend over it. We got Gallego running. Sinema might run. Therefore, there's a very clear lane for a three-way race. Is this something you're interested in? Something you're entertaining? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I am entertaining it. I mean, my number one priority is our court case. And I have full confidence in our court case, and I have hope that we'll get a judge to do the right thing. But I'm also looking at what happens if we don't get a decent ruling in that. Mm-hmm. And they want me to go away. They want our movement to go away. I represent we the people. And if they want us gone so badly that they're willing to steal an election, then I'm not going to let them have that. I won't go away. And I've seen some internal polling that shows I am the only Republican who can beat these other two. Mm-hmm. I find both of them incredibly dangerous to the people of Arizona.
Yeah, they are.
I find them, Kyrsten Sinema's voting record being 83%, or rather 93% of the time voting for Joe Biden's agenda. I find Ruben Gallego being a self-admitted socialist, really frightening for Arizona. And if I'm the only Republican who can beat them, I would be willing to jump in. But again, my first priority is my court case. If I did jump in, it would be contingent that if my court case was successful, that I would then step over and take the governorship.
So there you have it. I mean, she's utterly relentless in the best sense of the term. She's not bowing out. She's not going away. She's not being intimidated. And I think she's being very smart here. You can do both. You can pursue your court case all the way up to the Supreme Court, as she's vowed to do, and you can lay the groundwork for a very successful U.S. Senate run. Let's assess what's happening here. So as to the status of her court case, she's expected to get a hearing from the Arizona Court of Appeals. In a brief order, the court set a date for the month of March to hear Kari Lake's appeal of the decision made by Judge Peter Thompson. Now, they're appealing, as I understand it, his imposing an undue burden of proof. The judge required that Kari Lake's team needed to prove that all of those irregularities and mishaps in Maricopa County were actually intentional, which is not just ridiculous, it's also not necessary according to Arizona law. If Arizona legal precedent were maintained here, Kari would not have had to prove that actual fraud or maladministration of an election took place. And all she would have to do is just show that there were irregularities, there were mishaps, there were mistakes, there were omissions, or all kinds of other issues that bring the integrity of the election outcome into doubt, which is exactly what her team did. It was made all more evident by the incompetence of Katie Hobbs' team. But the judge in the case maintained these impossible-to-prove standards and found in favor of Katie Hobbs. So obviously, Kari Lake's appealing the decision, and her appeal is based on Arizona legal precedent, as I understand it. Again, this is key. According to Arizona law, she does not have to prove what the judge required her to prove, right? That there was actual maladministration. All she has to do is show that the various irregularities could have inordinately affected the election results, which is enough to render the certification invalid and order a new election, a runoff, presumably in Maricopa County alone, because that's where all the shenanigans and all the issues were. There were no issues, as I understand, outside of Maricopa. Now, that's all going on in the legal sphere. In the political sphere, the polls for the next U.S. Senate election in Arizona are coming out, and needless to say, they look very good for Kari. You're going to love this. But first, gang, make sure to click on that link below and head on over to my special website for the Ready Project food supply. No one makes preparing for an emergency more ridiculously easy and affordable than our good friends over at the Ready Project food supply. Their food kits last up to 25 years in storage. They include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. All their meals are at least 2,000 calories. And if you act right now, you're going to save 25% off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on that link below to my special website. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link below. Start building your emergency food supply today. All right, we now have another poll that shows Kari Lake with a very comfortable lead in a 3-way Senate race in Arizona. Of course, you know the current Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who was all decked out last night in a yellow dress, fairly interestingly. She left the Democratic Party to become an independent. She will be challenged by a Democrat for that seat. And so in a 3-way race with the center left and the radical woke left split, Kari's got this. At best, the Democrat is tied with Lake, but that appears highly suspect. You're not going to get the results we had in 2022 with all the irregularities duly noted. Those results would not have happened with the Republican and Democrat tied in a 3-way race. What these polls are clearly conveying, by the way, is that Sinema's done. She's one and done. At this point, according to the poll, she has no chance of winning. We'll see. I mean, maybe she could pull off a Lisa Murkowski. I don't know. Maybe she could even get Mitch McConnell to send her money. But most pundits are predicting a rather comfortable Kari Lake win if she enters the Senate race with the left splitting their vote. Now, over to the latest on Katie Hobbs. Arizonans are not waiting for the courts to make their decisions. They are taking this fight directly to Hobbs. There are now 2 organizations that are officially launching recall efforts to get rid of Hobbs once and for all. The Arizona chapter of Americans Against Mail-in Voting, they've officially launched a recall campaign. And a second organization called Arizona Citizens is already organizing to collect the signatures needed to force a recall vote. Now, according to Arizona law, after the governor has served for 6 months, a recall petition can be submitted, which has to include a certain amount of signatures in relation to the total number of voters in the last election. And I don't believe you can begin collecting signatures until that 6-month mark has passed. But the organizational efforts to garner those signatures is already underway. And as I've noted before, the irony in all of this, of course, is that Katie Hobbs has no one else to blame but herself in all of this. The very process by which she assumed office was so obviously and explicitly suspect. She herself has undermined the legitimacy of her administration. Literally every single respect, Katie Hobbs has completely undermined any shred of legitimacy for her tenure. Moreover, and I've talked about this in other videos, but recall efforts, regardless if they're successful, regardless if they're able to remove the governor in this case, they, in effect, weaken and destabilize the whole political system. It's a way of eroding any and all political capital, and this is key, that any and all politicians have within the system. So recalls have the effect of creating a kind of political paralysis by destabilizing the government as a whole and making it far more ineffectual in interfering in the daily lives of its citizens. So what this means then is that recall efforts are an effectual way of pushing back against election shenanigans or even perceived shenanigans. It's a way of sending a message. You may get away with being selected rather than elected, but doing so comes at a significant political cost. And that includes, by the way, you rhino Republicans who participate in these shenanigans. So obviously, we'll be keeping a very close eye on how things develop here in Arizona, but there's no question the grassroots energy that has animated Kari Lake's campaign continues, and it may indeed land her in the U.S. Senate. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on the top 5 moments in Biden's State of the Union disaster. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.